after a semblance of order was restored at the Capitol yesterday, when the blood was still on the floor and on the statues and the windows of the Capitol were still smashed in, lawmakers emerged from their hiding places and returned to the House floor, where the majority of House Republicans then voted to overturn the will of the people in key swing states and keep the president in power against the wishes of the nation's voters. 8 Republican senators, including several who clearly view themselves as rising stars and future presidential contenders, also voted against the will of the people. And 45% of Republicans polled yesterday approved of the storming of the U.S. Capitol. So we are dealing with about half of the entire party, if not more, that is essentially in the bag for sedition. Joining me now is someone who was there on the Capitol grounds yesterday, Democratic Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Minnesota, who has already prepared new articles of impeachment for Donald Trump. Congresswoman, first, let me start by asking your experience yesterday, and as someone who has firsthand experience of places in which governmental authority has broken down, how you understood what was happening yesterday.
Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, for having me. It was really astonishing to watch, as our nation's capital was attacked by armed domestic terrorists, to watch the storming of the Capitol, the breach that was taking place, to hear about the warnings, the evacuations. A lot of my colleagues have reached for third world analogies to utilize. They've spoken of like Somalia and Baghdad. And this is what America looked like yesterday. This is not, other countries. And we have to reckon with that reality. Our nation has seen just how fragile our democracy has been, just the danger a president like Trump poses, and what happens when people are complacent to the warnings of that danger. And I'm just quite devastated to know that we had to endure what we endured yesterday.
You're someone who obviously, I think, is often very targeted very publicly by the rhetoric from the president and the right. And I think also, not to get into your security situation, but that raises security issues for you personally. I know that's been reported. What was it like to be in that secure position yesterday? I was thinking about you specifically, actually, because of, frankly, the target that's been put on you by the president and others on the right. What your experience was as you heard these people marauding through the building.
Yeah, it's been hard to be targeted by the president of the United States. I mean, my life has been altered by the threats that he has incited against my life and my family. And I think a lot of my colleagues did not appreciate the extent of what those threats meant until it showed up for all of us. And, as I sat in my office and watched what was happening outside of the Capitol and heard about the evacuations that were happening in other buildings, and I had to be evacuated from my building, and it really sort of centers and put into context for people just how insightful this president has been and how many lives have been threatened by the violence that he has incited when he told the Proud Boys to stand down and stand by. This is what he was talking about. When he says, we need to go and fight, and we need to march, and we need to show those people who don't have a backbone how to stand up for our country. This is what he was talking about. And I think for far too long, so many people have excused his actions, have excused his rhetoric. And today we are all living with the reality that the capital of the United States was attacked. Members had to hide under their chairs, be summoned into one room, some members hiding in their own bathrooms, in their own offices. I mean, this is just a complete tragedy. And that pain is not only being felt by the members, it's being felt by our staff, everyone who works at the Capitol, every single person who cares about our democracy and the state of our republic. And to come back and to say, we're just going to move on and there are not going to be consequences and accountability is something that I am not comfortable with and no one in the United States should be comfortable with.